G'day folks, hope you're doing great. Recently I made a video explaining exactly how and why the only reason there are any homeless people in the entire country of Australia is because there's folk out there who hate whites and they want white people to suffer. So they created homelessness in Australia so that there'd be lots of homeless white people. Now, this individual brought up the point that even though there's, out of the homeless folk in Australia, most homeless people are white. And that's, again, why we have homelessness in Australia. Because most homeless folk are white. And homelessness is just a way to make white people suffer. Because there's folk out there who hate us because we're white. They hate us on the basis of our race. They're called anti-whites, okay? And they created homelessness. That's why it exists. Otherwise, everyone would just have a house. Pretty simple, but we're forced to be homeless. Again, because they hate us because we're white. Now, this individual brought up a valid point here that if we're going off percentages, like because Aboriginal is such a tiny percentage of the population, okay, they're being erased via mass multicultural, diverse immigration. That's the main thing harming the Aboriginal people, mass immigration. They're being erased. There's such a tiny population, or percent of the population now, that percentage-wise, there's a higher percent of the total population of Aboriginals homeless, etc. Okay? That is not that there's more homeless Aboriginals than there are homeless white folk. There's thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands more homeless white people than there are homeless Aboriginals. But the point here is that this proves me correct, okay? Yes, there are definitely homeless Aboriginals. There's homeless non-white folk of many different types of races throughout Australia. Why is there homeless Aboriginals in Australia? Why are homeless or any non-white folk homeless in Australia? Again, because there's folk out there who hate whites, who want white people to suffer. So they created homelessness to make white people homeless. Those Aboriginals are homeless because that homelessness was created for white folk. Okay? Anti-whites hate us and they want whites to suffer. And they don't care if they make some Aboriginals homeless along the way. And they make some other people suffer as well. Alright? It's all just hatred for white folk. Okay, so why do we have homelessness in Australia? It's just hatred for whites. Anti-white hatred. This individual is a bit too low IQ to comprehend something quite so simple. Children can understand this. There's people who hate white people, so they made people homeless in this country. Everyone who's homeless is made homeless by people who hate white people. And so if there's any Aboriginal person who's homeless, that Aboriginal is homeless because people hate white people. So if we want to help the homeless Aboriginals, as well as every other homeless person, we have to oppose the hatred of white people. The cause of homelessness in Australia. And if you don't want to accept that fact, you don't even care about the suffering of Aboriginals. Else you'd want to stop the anti-whiteism that harms them by trying to harm whites with things like homelessness. Okay, so everything that's harmful to our people. The reason why you struggle to pay your mortgage and your wages haven't risen, but the price of fuel and the price of food has risen. Why are even Aboriginal, even African, Chinese, Jewish, every race you could think of, alright? They're all suffering. We all have to pay more for fuel. We all have to pay more for food, and we all get paid less, all right, for the jobs that we do. The economy is getting worse. There's more inflation. Taxes are going up for all races of citizens. Why? Because there's people who hate whites and they want white people to suffer. And they don't give a damn if that means making non-white people suffer as well. So every single problem in the country, what's the one cause? Yeah, that's right. People hate white folk. Just because non-white people also suffer from the problems isn't a reason or excuse, all right, or evidence against the fact that the cause is just because there's people who hate white folk. What it means is they hate white folk that much, and they don't even give a shit about anyone else either. They don't care about Aboriginals, like the Greens Party and all this, and like, you know, these politicians and stuff. They don't care about Aboriginals. They're talking smack. They're lying out their teeth. They didn't put up the Aboriginal flag on the bridge the other day or whatever because they care about Aboriginals. They just hate white people. That's it. They're using the Aboriginals to just attack white folk. Pretty straightforward and simple. Every single problem in the country, every single problem that the Aboriginal community is suffering, they're suffering it because there's people who hate whites and they want to make whites suffer, and then the Aboriginals just end up being collateral damage after the anti-whites go to attack us because we're white. So, again, at the end of the day, if you want to help out any Aboriginal person, if you want to give them a better standard of life, lower their taxes, allow them to have more freedom, higher wages, more free time to spend with their loved ones and their families, all right, then the only way you can do that, the only way you can help your Aboriginal mates is by addressing anti-whiteism, because, again, the only reason that your Aboriginal mates are suffering at all in any way whatsoever is because they're just collateral damage. All right, they're just being affected by an attack on white people. Okay, so that's the facts of the matter, folk. Why is there any homeless person in Australia? Because there's cunts out there who hate white folk. Straightforward. Boom. Take it easy, folks.